Thank you for watching. This is Medical University. In this video, we will introduce foods you should avoid and foods we recommend to help prevent cerebral infarction, as well as recommended meals in the second half. Cerebral infarction is also known as a silent killer. In the early stages of cerebral infarction, when the brain is affected or there is plaque in the blood vessels, symptoms are usually absent. Then, suddenly, one side of the body can become numb or paralyzed, along with various other symptoms. Symptoms can occur. After a cerebral infarction, after effects may persist and not improve. Possible lifelong consequences include wheelchair dependence and other complications. There are people who live their lives carrying a handicap. A cerebral infarction is a condition where, once damage occurs, it is difficult to recover and after effects often remain. This can make it hard to live the rest of your life as you did before, so preventing a cerebral infarction is extremely important. People often say that blood vessels age as we get older, but when we are born, our blood vessels are soft and flexible, like tubes. However, as we age, they become harder, less elastic, and can get clogged with fat. In order to prevent cerebral infarction, it is essential to prevent the aging of blood vessels. To prevent aging of blood vessels and cerebral infarction, there are 6 types of foods to avoid or reduce consumption of. So, I will introduce the top 4 foods and drinks that help keep your blood vessels young and prevent arteriosclerosis, as well as the top 5 foods that help keep your blood vessels clean and prevent arteriosclerosis in this way. At medical universities, they actually examine and diagnose arteriosclerosis. As a doctor, I'm sharing videos to help you become healthier starting tomorrow. The way hospitals are structured leads to higher medical costs because patients are only treated after they get sick. Are hospitals similar? We don't have much time to explain methods for preventing illness. At medical universities, what should we do to prevent illness before it develops? We are sending out such information, and if possible, we would really like you to subscribe to our channel. So, let me quickly tell you about foods that stimulate bowel movements and help you go. The worst, ranked 6th, is fruit juice drinks. What are fruit juice drinks? They're these kinds of beverages. When you go to the convenience store, you might see healthy looking clear drinks in bottles that look like water, but they taste like peach or white grape. They often have flavors added. They're sold in a way that makes them look just like water, so you end up drinking a lot of them because they seem easy to drink. But actually, many patients, including those from overseas, come to the hospital with diabetes. Despite their condition, they are very kind individuals. People often say that water is healthy, but that's not always the case. You may be surprised to find that water with a sweet taste often contains unexpected ingredients, according to the label. It contained up to 0.91 ounces of sugar, equal to about 6 or 7 sugar cubes. There was more dissolved sugar than I expected. Even if you're careful with your diet, watch out for these drinks. If you drink juice-based water and think you're being healthy just because it's water, in reality, it's more like a beverage than you might think. There are cases where you think you're getting calories or nutrients, but you're actually not. For example, there are a lot of zero-calorie water-based juices out there, so you might think it's okay to drink them. Or you might switch to something lighter like water. Please try to check whether that's really the case. Everyone, please be careful not to be misled by these water-like juices. They may not have the effects you expect. And among drinks, the 5th worst is these sweetened beverages. First of all, there are zero-calorie flavored drinks. I mentioned earlier that water might be better, but actually, you also need to be careful with these artificial sweeteners. Just because a drink is 0 calories doesn't mean it's safe if it contains artificial sweeteners. Some may think it's not a big deal, but that's the point. It's not necessarily good for you. Artificial sweeteners are artificial sweeteners, so you need to be careful with them. This is a study published in 2017 that targeted men aged 45 and older. People who consumed carbonated drinks with artificial sweeteners had a higher risk compared to those who did not consume them. There was a report that the risk of stroke increased by about 2 to 3 times, and furthermore, this study also found that the risk of dementia increased. This is surprising. I don't want a diet, just enjoy regular soda, not juice. There are also zero-calorie versions of those diet drinks, you know. Actually, that's what they are. We can't say for sure about the risks in the long term, but previous studies have shown that artificial sweeteners like sucralose and aspartame are included. These artificial sweeteners are actually hundreds of times sweeter than sugar, and on top of that, they have almost no calories, so they're highly valued. Recent research indicates that artificial sweeteners may have adverse health effects and might not be as beneficial as previously believed. Most studies on saccharin, an artificial sweetener, have been conducted on animals, yielding low reliability. Some research suggests it may increase cancer risk, but clear evidence in humans is still lacking. We also don't really know if other artificial sweeteners might disrupt the internal environment of the body. Could insulin secretion also decrease to lower blood sugar levels? The long-term health effects are still unknown. Many aspects remain under-researched, with conflicting information being shared. Generally, I don't recommend consuming artificial sweeteners, though I can't say it's always best to avoid them completely if your physical condition worsens or your weight increases. If you notice weight gain or any other changes, I think you should be cautious. These are foods that can potentially cause adverse effects. The worst, ranked fourth, is energy drinks. I'm sure everyone has experienced this at some point. It's not uncommon. Honestly, when I was a student, there were times when I had to stay up late and couldn't afford to sleep, so I relied on them too. At those times, I would drink energy drinks. Maybe it's just my body type, but if I drink too many energy drinks, I start to feel jittery, so I try not to drink them unless I'm really tired. Actually, if you think about it, those energy drinks are really sweet, aren't they? A typical energy drink contains about 8.45 fluid ounces, and it actually has around 0.95 ounces of sugar in it. The energy drinks contain about 6 to 7 sugar cubes worth of sugar, according to research from Toronto University. It's caffeine, isn't it? The effects of caffeine last a long time. People who have inherited this trait experience it like this. If you consume too much caffeine from things like energy drinks, there are research reports that say it can lead to high blood pressure or make it easier to develop. Some people might think that as long as it's just energy drinks or caffeine, it's okay to take as much as you want, but actually it's best not to exceed a certain amount. There isn't a set safe upper limit for caffeine intake, but looking at various reports from different countries, many define a safe daily intake as about 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. It's contained in energy drinks. The amount of caffeine varies, but I personally think that even if you drink a lot, 1 can per day is probably the maximum you should have. A can of black coffee contains about 100 milligrams of caffeine, so if you drink up to the upper limit, even with black coffee, drinking 3 cans a day would add up to 300 milligrams. Please be careful. Also, caffeine itself is not recommended for children, pregnant women, or people with heart disease or heart conditions, as it can worsen symptoms and its safety is not guaranteed. In 2001, my wife consumed caffeine, and as a result, the safety for fetuses has not been guaranteed, and it has been announced that there is a possibility it could have some kind of effect on the fetus. To sum up, energy drinks also contain caffeine. You need to be careful, and in conclusion, please be cautious not to drink too many sweet drinks. Among my fellow doctors, there was a senior who, before he knew it, had gotten into the habit of drinking 1 or 2 energy drinks every day. This is a bad example, so really only drink them when absolutely necessary and limit yourself to 1 can a day at most to avoid lifestyle-related diseases. If you have underlying health conditions, be extra cautious. Consult your primary care doctor before deciding to drink them to stay healthy. These are foods and drinks that can cause hyperactivity. The third worst on the list is fruit juice. At medical universities, fruit juice is often recommended to some degree, as it's considered a healthy drink since it's made from fruit. Many people think that way, but in reality, a lot of fruit juices have added sugar to increase their sweetness. Even those labeled as 100% fruit juice can contain added sugars. Reconstituted juice was once concentrated and later diluted with water to its original state. Sometimes sugar is added during the process, and that can happen as well, so it may contain sugars that were not originally in the fruit. It's called fructose, fruit sugar, and compared to sucrose, which is the main component of table sugar, fructose is even sweeter. That's why fructose is often used in clear soft drinks and is also found naturally in fruits. There is data showing that fructose, which is fruit sugar, can raise cholesterol levels. It has been reported that if you consume about 0.7 ounces of fructose a day, your cholesterol levels may increase. That's what has been reported, this fructose. There are also reports that when people consume 3.5 ounces of fructose a day, not only did their total cholesterol increase, but their bad cholesterol also went up. This study was conducted on Japanese people. Other studies have shown the same results, so just because the sugar in fruit is natural doesn't necessarily mean it's good for your health. Even if it's natural sugar, you should be careful not to consume too much. That's the same for vegetable juice. The vegetable juice that Mr. Minna drinks isn't particularly sweet, is it? It's not much different from regular juice. That's because they contain a certain amount of sugar. Please check the ingredient label and look at the calories. Even if it's fruit or vegetables, I recommend eating real food as it is rather than drinking it as juice. During the process, important nutrients like vitamins are lost, and sometimes the vitamins are broken down or the fiber is cut out. If you really like orange juice and want to drink it, I can't stop you. But for me, I only drink juice for enjoyment, and I try to avoid things that are just for the taste. It's not necessarily bad, so don't force yourself to drink it if you don't want to. By choosing juice instead, you can slightly lower your future risk of arteriosclerosis and other health issues. Try experimenting with changing your everyday meals to options that are not high in calories. The drink that causes the worst impact on your metabolism, ranked second after the worst, is alcohol. I also drink alcohol, but when I was in college, I started drinking more, which led to my physical condition deteriorating. I've experienced this firsthand and reflected on it. This led me to research alcohol more thoroughly. People often claim alcohol is like a cure-all medicine. Drinking small amounts of alcohol is okay, but I refuse to overindulge. There is also solid research showing that alcohol does not necessarily lower the risk of heart disease or heart attacks. According to the latest medical research, that's probably not the case. Due to errors in previous studies, that's not necessarily true. Studies show that even small amounts of alcohol can increase health risks. The general consensus is that it's inaccurate to say drinking in moderation is okay, as moderation is hard to define. When you drink alcohol, your muscles get tired and you feel sluggish, so you might think your sperm is affected, or you end up drinking too much because you lose track of how much you've had. That's why alcohol is often considered a secondary factor. But in reality, alcohol itself has an effect of increasing cholesterol. When we drink, the place where alcohol is metabolized is the liver, and during the process of breaking down alcohol in the liver, something called neutral fat is produced. As a result, it's said that cholesterol can increase and become bad cholesterol, but sometimes cholesterol can increase and become good cholesterol, and sometimes cholesterol can decrease. So you need to be careful not to drink too much alcohol, but drinking can raise your cholesterol and increase your risk of arteriosclerosis in the future. There is a possibility. According to the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare's guidelines, what is considered a moderate amount of alcohol? For men, it's said to be 0.7 ounces of alcohol per day, and for women, 0.35 ounces per day. To put it in perspective, 0.7 ounces of alcohol is about 1.057 quarts of beer, 1 serving of sake, or about half a bottle of wine. But it's not just about cholesterol. Alcohol itself can damage your liver. Data shows that alcohol can increase the risk of esophageal and stomach cancer, having these effects. It's said that the social loss amounts to about 6 trillion yen. For everyone who drinks alcohol, I hope you'll take a fresh look at your drinking habits. It's not that drinking alcohol is always bad. In the pursuit of health, we sometimes sacrifice happiness or miss out on important things. We don't live solely for our health. Maintaining a healthy relationship with alcohol is crucial. Enjoy it in moderation, adjust your intake, and take breaks from drinking. Keep this in mind for your well-being. I also strive to be mindful of this. Alcohol can have both stimulating effects and risks. The number one on the list of 6 is bottled water, but I think many people may not realize this. I will explain with data just how bad these actually are. People who regularly drink soft drinks are at higher risk for heart attacks and strokes. The study targeted about 39,000 men and women aged 40 to 59 from 10 locations across the country. In the study, women who answered that they drink soft drinks every day had a 21% higher risk of stroke over an 18-year follow-up period compared to women who answered that they do not drink them at all. Cerebral infarction, a type of stroke caused by a blocked blood vessel, is particularly significant. The risk of the disease increased by about 83%. Simply put, that's almost twice as much. The risk of death increased for men as well, but the increase was more pronounced for women. In this study, what exactly is meant by soft drinks? It refers to clear beverages like sodas. This includes not only flavored juices, but also fruit juices that have been processed and have added sugars. If you drink soft drinks just for the taste, or even if you drink them out of habit, you are getting closer to a future risk of stroke. This is a review of what we've covered so far. These are foods that can cause negative effects on your blood vessels with just one serving. In other words, they are the worst choices. We've introduced drinks such as flavored water, artificially sweetened beverages, energy drinks, fruit juices, alcohol, and carbonated soft drinks. So, if all of those are bad for you, you might be wondering what you should drink instead. Are there any drinks that are actually good for your blood vessels and can help prevent arteriosclerosis? Now, let me introduce the top 4 drinks that can help protect your blood vessels and prevent hardening of the arteries, or at least drinks that won't promote arteriosclerosis. In fourth place is red wine. You just said alcohol was bad for you, but now you're contradicting yourself. Red wine was ranked fourth. There's a reason for this. Red wine contains... There's a component called polyphenol, which is said to help prevent future arteriosclerosis. Polyphenols are substances that plants produce to protect themselves from ultraviolet rays and other external factors. They produce and release them to protect themselves. It's a natural component. Polyphenols are found in things like red wine and green tea. In recent years, they've been getting attention as healthy ingredients, so I think many of you have heard about them. They're also present in coffee and other foods. Recent studies have reported in many cases that these polyphenols may not actually dissolve blood clots. It's a bit difficult to say that polyphenols have the potential to dissolve these blood clots. A cerebral infarction is a condition where a blood vessel in the brain becomes blocked, causing poor blood flow, and as a result, brain cells die. It's a disease that occurs when blood flow is obstructed. A substance called glutamic acid is released from the nerve cells. To keep it simple, when glutamic acid is released, the concentration of calcium inside the nerve cells increases and a substance called active oxygen is produced. This ultimately causes the nerve cells to die. According to research from a Japanese university, to put it simply, polyphenols may help suppress the mechanisms that cause cerebral infarction. That's why I chose this red wine. The reason is the Mediterranean diet, as you likely know. Along the Mediterranean coast, like the coast of Europe and Italy, people eat fruits and fish that are available in these regions, olive oil and nuts. And a small amount of dairy products as well as red wine are combined in this diet, which is called the Mediterranean diet. However, it's important to note that this diet is not specifically proven to lower the risk of certain cancers or to clearly reduce the risk of future cardiovascular diseases, heart attacks, or even dementia. It's a moderate diet, so even if you include red wine, you should drink it in moderation. For those who drink alcohol, red wine can be a better choice, but be careful not to overindulge. It may help prevent arteriosclerosis, so keep that in mind. Third place goes to this: drinks that are rich in polyphenols, drinks with a lot of polyphenols. The way I just said it might have sounded a bit roundabout, but to put it simply, recently for heat stroke prevention, there are more and more drinks that contain salt in a form that's easy to drink. Some sports drinks are like that too. Actually, this salt content is also said to increase the risk of arteriosclerosis. When people hear salt, they might not think it's a big deal, but if you consume too much salt, your risk of arteriosclerosis goes up. The report by Dr. Takusan gathered 13 studies targeting a total of 170,000 people. According to a highly reliable meta-analysis paper, just increasing your daily salt intake by 5 grams raises your future risk of stroke by 23%. 5 grams is about the amount in one serving of instant ramen. Just changing your salt intake for one day can double your future risk of stroke, so be careful with the foods sold in stores, like salty foods. When it comes to preventing heat stroke, these kinds of drinks and foods are certainly important for hydration, but if you're not sweating a lot or working hard and just eat them because they taste good, it could actually increase your risk of high blood pressure in the future, so be careful with those so-called salty foods and drinks. The volume was approximately 1.057 quarts with a salt content of nearly zero, around 0.0176 ounces. There are also things like plum kelp tea, which is really delicious. I like it too, but if you think about it, it might not be the best choice. Plum kelp tea usually contains about 1 gram of salt per serving, which is quite a lot. Sports drinks also usually come in 1.057 quarts bottles and contain about 0.5 to 0.035 ounces of salt per bottle, so please be careful. The World Health Organization recommends that adults consume less than 0.176 ounces of salt per day, so be mindful when drinking sports drinks. Drinking plum kelp tea could easily exceed that limit. You might be getting about 20% of your daily salt intake just from drinks. Japanese people often drink miso soup, and one bowl contains about 1/5 of the daily salt intake. With 3 bowls, you're getting most of your salt from soup alone, leaving little for other meals. For those from overseas or with high blood pressure who need to limit salt intake, I suggest avoiding miso soup and switching to warm tea or hot water instead. Japanese people tend to consume a lot of salt from these habits. It's said that Japanese people consume a lot of salt, so it's best to avoid taking in too much from food and drinks. The goal is 0 grams, but reducing salt intake as much as possible is crucial. Coffee is the second most common drink after tea that helps prevent high blood pressure. Earlier, I mentioned polyphenols, and coffee is one of those drinks that contains them. So when I say coffee, I mean this coffee. It's a drink that has evidence showing it can help prevent high blood pressure on its own. The National Cancer Research Center studied both genders. A National Cancer Research Center study tracked 80,000 people for 13 years and compared coffee drinkers to non-drinkers. The study found that people who drank 2 or more cups of coffee a day, or about 3 to 6 cups a week, had a 19 to 22% lower risk of cerebral infarction compared to those who did not drink coffee. However, this does not mean that coffee alone is responsible for the reduced risk. Not only did the risk of cerebral infarction decrease, but the risk of other heart diseases also went down. Isn't that surprising? Earlier, I mentioned being careful about the caffeine in coffee, but coffee naturally contains caffeine. It has been pointed out that this polyphenol may not actually prevent cerebral infarction. A Japanese university study found that people regularly drink coffee daily. Compared to non-drinkers, men who drink have a reduced risk of cerebrovascular disease. Small blood vessel hemorrhages in the brain, such as microinfarctions and microbleeds, were also significantly reduced. There are reports about this, but that's not all. Some components found in coffee are actually used in the treatment of arteriosclerosis. It's called alteplase. It's a substance that dissolves blood clots. However, coffee doesn't increase its activity. Our bodies naturally produce the substance. When the activity of alteplase, a substance that dissolves blood clots, decreases, blood clots are more likely to form, which increases the risk of stroke. From this perspective, it's thought that coffee may help prevent strokes by increasing the activity of the component that dissolves blood clots and keeps the blood flowing smoothly. I'm looking forward to it. That's why, although it's not entirely clear just from this reasoning, on the other hand, it's also important to be careful not to consume too much caffeine. Even if you drink coffee, 1-2 cups a day is recommended. Depending on your health conditions, consult your doctor to see if it's okay for you to drink it. 4 foods that may not help prevent cerebral infarction. The number 1 is water. Maybe that's not what most people would expect, but it's not that you have to avoid calories at all costs. Plain water without salt or sugar is the simplest and most recommended. Dehydration-induced cerebral infarction refers to when extreme dehydration causes the blood to thicken and clot, potentially leading to cerebral infarction. In other words, dehydration can result in cerebral infarction. The risk of cerebral infarction and myocardial infarction is due to a lack of water. When you become dehydrated, your blood gets thicker and thicker, becoming sluggish and sticky. If you imagine things worsening, water becomes even more crucial. In Japan, there are more patients with heat stroke and cerebral infarction as blood vessels get clogged. Many people think that strokes are more likely to happen in the cold winter, but actually, you also need to be careful about dehydration, Michiron. You can also supplement your fluids from sources other than water, but be careful, things like coffee and alcohol are not good for that. Green tea and similar drinks have a diuretic effect. So even if you drink them, they will just pass through your system and not really help with hydration. So when it comes to hydration, it's best to think of water as your main source. However, you can also get minerals and hydration from drinks like barley tea, which doesn't contain caffeine. There are caffeine-free barley teas available, so please consider those as well. As a general guideline, it's often said that you should aim for about 2 liters of water per day, but you also get water from your meals. So as a rough target, about 1 liter of water a day should be enough. Of course, in the real summer, or when you're sweating a lot outside, you should drink even more than that. It's important, so please be careful. This is a review up to this point. Recommended drinks for preventing heat stroke. Here are the top 4. 4th is red wine with polyphenols. 3rd are sugar-free drinks. In 2nd place is coffee, and in 1st place is water. So finally, the last 3 help prevent cerebral infarction. Not only drinks, but also foods are important. Taku-san, I have some recommended foods for you. For example, the fat contained in red meat, like beef or whale meat, is called oleic acid, and it has the effect of raising good cholesterol in the body. So, instead of using regular salad oil, try using something else. Or instead of your usual choices, try something different. There are foods that can help prevent arteriosclerosis, so I will explain them in an easy to understand way, for the prevention of arteriosclerosis. The 5th recommended food is olive oil. The oil contained in salad oil is called linoleic acid, and it increases bad cholesterol and lowers good cholesterol. However, the olive oil contained in this one, the oil is called linoleic acid, and it actually has the effect of lowering cholesterol, so it's a good oil. Among olive oils, the one that is expected to lower the risk of future blood vessel problems is called extra virgin olive oil. Actually, olive oil is oil extracted from olives, but depending on the manufacturing method, it is largely divided into two types. One is virgin olive oil and the other is refined olive oil. What's the difference? The first one, virgin olive oil, is the one that's well known. It's oil that's extracted by simply pressing 100% of the fruit as it is. The second one, called refined olive oil, is made from the first virgin olive oil that's been pressed and directly extracted. In order to adjust the components and color of the oil, scientific processing is added to refine the aroma and flavor. Olive oil is a type of virgin olive oil, and among the two, the one I recommend is the first one, which is simply squeezed as it is, virgin olive oil. Furthermore, among virgin olive oils, those with a low acidity level and high quality are called extra virgin olive oil. This is said to help prevent future arteriosclerosis and heart attacks. However, it is not said that it will completely eliminate the risk. In fact, by consuming about 40 to 2 fluid ounces of this extra virgin olive oil per day, there is research showing that it can reduce the risk of cerebral infarction and myocardial infarction by as much as 30%. The oleic acid contained in this extra virgin olive oil lowers cholesterol, especially bad cholesterol, and increases good cholesterol. That's not all. This extra virgin olive oil was also explained during the red wine segment. It is also said to contain polyphenols. These components are believed to prevent the aging of blood vessels and may help reduce the risk of future arteriosclerosis. There may be a limit to how much olive oil you can pour at the store. I recommend choosing extra virgin olive oil. Personally, I use this olive oil for salad dressing and spread it on bread with butter. Instead, I often drizzle this olive oil over food or use it generously on dishes like grilled mackerel. The aroma is also very nice, and eating it this way doesn't seem to lower cholesterol. It also feels like a good deal, so I definitely recommend you give it a try. It's a food that's recommended for preventing arteriosclerosis. The fourth item on the list is salmon. At Kyoto University, I may have introduced salmon as something that's good for your ears, but eating fish is also said to be good for preventing heart attacks. In fact, it actually lowers the risk of cerebral infarction. And of course, it tastes great too. Fish is recommended, and the reason is because of components like eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, which are especially abundant in blue-backed fish. I talked about this before when I discussed olive oil. They are included in a group called unsaturated fatty acids. They are oils, often called omega-3 fatty acids. Now about these omega-3 SAR. Research is being conducted by many people, so let's briefly introduce whether or not there are any effects. They lower neutral fats and cholesterol and also reduce bad cholesterol. They raise good cholesterol, and what's more, they also lower blood pressure. They also mildly decrease heart rate, promoting relaxation. Recent studies suggest additional benefits. There are reports that taking this omega-3 fatty acid along with standard treatment for the illness has led to better treatment outcomes. That's right. In the past, people used to say that fish is good for the brain, but there isn't actually any data showing that it's specifically good for the brain. However, it does have various other effects. There's no such thing as eating too much fish. In fact, studies have shown that people who eat fish more than 4 times a week have a lower risk of developing acute liver syndrome and diseases where the blood vessels of the heart become clogged. So the more fish you eat, the lower your risk. So by all means, even once a week is good. Just by switching a day when you eat meat to a day when you eat fish, you can lower your risk of developing vascular diseases in the future. As for recommended fish, eating blue-backed fish like mackerel and Pacific sori allows you to get plenty of omega-3 fatty acids. If you want to learn more about eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid in detail, I've made a video about it in the past, so please check it out. Please take a look at the summary section below. Recommended foods for preventing arteriosclerosis. In 5th place, third on the list, are leafy green vegetables. Eating vegetables is generally good for health, but leafy greens are especially beneficial. These vegetables may help prevent arteriosclerosis. Leafy green vegetables like spinach, komatsuna and kale contain nutrients that help prevent arteriosclerosis. One of these is called nitrate. By eating these leafy greens, the nitrate in your body is converted into a substance called nitric oxide. The chemical formula for nitric oxide is written like this, and this substance actually helps dilate blood vessels, improve blood flow, and lower blood pressure. That's why it's recommended to eat leafy green vegetables. This may lead to healthier blood vessels and potentially reduce the risk of future arteriosclerosis. In a study conducted in 2011, a group that consumed at least 60 milligrams of nitrate from vegetables per day, about 1 serving of leafy green vegetables, was found to have lower risk. This is the image you should have in mind. Compared to the group that didn't, the group that consumed more vegetables had about a 17% lower risk of cerebral infarction. It's not just that eating vegetables lowers your blood pressure or cholesterol, or that your stomach feels better. Various effects are expected, such as reducing the risk of cerebral infarction among vegetables, especially for preventing cerebral infarction. Leafy green vegetables like spinach and komatsuna are especially important. Things like kale as well. Please try to consciously include these kinds of foods in your diet. This is something I actually do myself. As for how to eat them, you can blanch them or soak them and then squeeze out the excess water so you can eat a lot at once. Spinach is also fine to add to miso soup. You can also stir fry them or use them in smoothies. I recommend finding the way of eating that suits you best and trying it out. Mr. Sayu actually does this. If you have a preferred way of eating, please let us know in the comments. Recommended foods for preventing iron deficiency anemia. The second place in the top 5 is natto. Natto is also recommended at medical universities. I've always said that instead of the snacks you usually eat, you should switch to small bags of nuts. This is also important for preventing obesity. Nuts lower the risk of your blood vessels getting clogged in the future. They studied about 47,000 Japanese men and women. The research looked at the amount of food they consumed and how it was related to future strokes and heart disease. They examined the risk. As a result, the group that ate the most nuts had a lower risk compared to the group that ate the least. The risk of cerebral infarction was reduced by 20% just by eating nuts. You can help prevent cerebral infarction. Why is that? Like before, nuts contain unsaturated fatty acids, but that's not all. Nuts are rich in unsaturated fatty acids. They lower low-density lipoprotein cholesterol and raise high-density lipoprotein cholesterol. Also, nuts themselves are rich in vitamins and minerals. The vitamin found in nuts has antioxidant effects, which help keep blood vessels healthy and are considered important for their protection. They contain minerals. Potassium and magnesium have the effect of lowering blood pressure. Because of this, they can improve blood flow and lower blood pressure, which may help reduce the risk of arteriosclerosis. However, that's not the only benefit. There are also benefits to eating nuts, such as the dietary fiber content. Dietary fiber helps regulate the intestinal environment and is thought to suppress cholesterol absorption. It also serves as food for intestinal bacteria and helps improve bowel movements. Instead of eating sweets when you feel hungry, try eating nuts. Actually, nuts are satisfying both in terms of taste and aroma, so you can feel full even with a small amount, and they help keep you satisfied for longer. Explore various nut types like cashews, almonds, hazelnuts, and macadamias to find your favorites and keep things interesting. One thing to be careful about is that there are many nuts that are coated in oil or have added seasonings. These can contain a lot of oil or extra salt, so if possible, choose nuts that are not coated in oil or have no added seasonings. I recommend eating nuts as they are a good food for preventing and improving constipation. The number 1 food on this list is Kaki no Tane chocolate. It unexpectedly took the top spot. However, regular chocolate tends to have a lot of sugar. You should be careful with sweets, but high cacao chocolate contains a lot of cacao. Chocolate is made from cacao. Flavanol, a polyphenol found in cacao, is anticipated to reduce the risk of future blood vessel issues. It's not bad for you, as people say. If you're hoping for health benefits, it is recommended to choose cacao products with a cacao content of 60 to 70% or higher if possible. Some products are advertised as dark chocolate or high cacao, but in reality there are also products with only about 30% cacao, so please be careful. Please check the ingredient label and try to choose products that contain 60 to 70% or more cacao. Now you might be wondering what is so good about the flavonoids contained in cacao. Actually, this is related to polyphenols. These flavonoids help promote the production of polyphenols in the body, which is a good thing. As I mentioned earlier, nitric oxide helps to dilate blood vessels and lower blood pressure. This high cacao chocolate has a similar effect according to several studies. Consuming it over 3 times weekly reduces blood pressure and helps prevent cardiovascular diseases. There are also reports that it lowers the risk by about 9%. Therefore, this flavonol is expected to be good for maintaining cognitive function, as it helps dilate blood vessels and increases blood flow to the brain. It may also have other benefits. It lowers cholesterol and is good for your overall health. There are also reports that it may not actually raise cholesterol levels. Depending on the food, some contain added sugars and can be high in calories, so please choose those with a high cacao content. If you suddenly eat something with 90% cacao or higher and you're not used to it, you might be surprised by the bitterness. I also thought at first that it would be too bitter, but as I kept eating it, I gradually got used to it and now I can eat it without any problem. I started to enjoy the aroma of cacao. At first it was bitter, so I tried eating just a little at a time, and as I got used to the bitterness, I gradually started to notice the rich aroma of cacao spreading in my mouth. I began to enjoy the sweetness included in cacao. The bitterness itself can help suppress your appetite, so you can expect that effect as well. For us humans, foods that are bitter often contain toxins, so from an evolutionary perspective, it's believed that we have developed an instinct not to overeat them as a survival mechanism. That's why bitterness helps control our appetite and, as a result, can help protect our blood vessels. Be aware of the high cacao content in chocolate. Eat it and enjoy it. Was that helpful? I hope so. Here are 3 recommended foods to help prevent arteriosclerosis. In 5th place is extra virgin olive oil. In 4th place is fish oil, especially those rich in eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid. In 3rd place are green leafy vegetables such as spinach, kale and komatsuna. The top 3 foods introduced are, in order, cocoa and chocolate, nuts and whole grains. Incorporate what you can into your eating habits over time. I eat this way too. Share your thoughts or impressions with me. Please share your thoughts in the comments. I hope this will be helpful for others as well. And finally, here's one piece of advice from me. While food is important, maintaining a healthy lifestyle is just as important. For those who spend long periods sitting each day, it's said that just sitting for a long time can lead to poor blood circulation and increase the risk of deep vein thrombosis. Japanese people are known worldwide for spending long periods sitting, so whether you're working at your desk or working from home, try to stand up and stretch at least once every hour. Doing some light exercises or stretches to promote blood circulation is important, so please remember to move your body, even if it's just a little. Even just taking a break once an hour to go get some water and drink it before returning is good enough. Recently, some people have begun using standing desks, increasing the number working while standing. By taking a closer look at your own lifestyle habits, you can not only improve your diet, but also increase your amount of exercise. I was worried about the risk of future arteriosclerosis. I was anxious and didn't know what to do. This time, we talked about foods that increase the risk of cerebral infarction and foods that lower the risk of cerebral infarction. I introduced recommended drinks and foods, so the video ended up being long. Please feel free to listen to it as many times as you like. Take notes and try to put it into practice yourself. At medical universities, we routinely provide guidance on diet and exercise. According to a current outpatient care doctor, certain aspects cannot be effectively communicated in an outpatient setting. I'm introducing illness prevention methods, but I'm concerned people may be unaware of them. The content is extensive and provides valuable information. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet so you don't miss new videos, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you could rate this video using the good button or the bad button, it will help me improve in the future. With that said, please watch until the very end. I'm from the Department of Integrated Medicine, and what I learned from my patients is that aging doesn't have to start in your 70s or 80s. In the Department of General Medicine, I became the top-ranked gift ranking winner in the 4 departments of Lifestyle AEA. While working as an ordinary doctor, I learned from my patients about important ways of living, and I have put together the best health methods I discovered. This book is for those who want to live a healthy life their own way, like I do. It's currently well reviewed and selling great, so please check it out.